5, episode 2. April, I looked out the window and I see a winter wonderland this morning. Actually, before I went to bed, I looked at the window and it was so bright. I guess the moon was really bright. It was like a full moon or something. What's like a favorite snow memory when you were a kid? Like when you think snow and you think of like when you were a kid, what's the story that comes up when you think about that?
I don't know if it's a fun memory. It's a little traumatic because I lived in the north, and so school was not closed when it snowed. And I remember walking to the bus stop with snow up to my knees, like trekking through the snow to get to the bus. That is a very vivid memory that I have.
So that's like, that happened multiple times then?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
not fond memories of snow at all.
I don't like snow. Maybe that's why I don't like snow.
It could be. I think there's a deep thing that's recessed in your personality and your brain that like, so, and maybe that refers to your hate for coldness too. I don't know. I'm on the opposite spectrum. I love snow. I hate ice, but I love snow. Also, I grew up here in the southeast, and so snow, we had it, but it was pretty sparse. It didn't happen a lot. But I remember when I was a kid, I lived in the woods back when I was growing up. And my grandparents lived right across the road from us, and we didn't have electricity for like a week. It had like 10 inches, 12 inches of snow, and then ice came in after that. And anyways, we didn't have electricity for a whole week in the woods. And so that was amazing for me. Like, not just the whole schedule was flipped, and like being able to go outside and just, what I loved about it was I was kind of rough and tumble kid. I loved to like just jump in it, like, you know, climb somewhere high and just like fall into it. I just thought that was fun because I didn't get hurt. I mean, I probably did, but you know, adrenaline's pumping, you don't think about it. But anyways, that's the first thing I think about, is not having electricity for like 5 days or however long it was, and just figuring stuff out outside. Everything was different because you had snow everywhere. So anyways, that's the thing I think about.
Yeah, I'm glad you had those great memories of snow. Me, not so much. But
Having
to
it
each
all
his
the
own.
time. Yeah. I mean, having it all the time, I probably would change my mind. Yeah.
That's true. Like, it snowed pretty much a lot of the winter. So maybe I was just over it and was glad to get away from it.
Yeah,
Where I could
I get it.
understand for you, like, not having it often, it's like exciting.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
don't know. Yeah, everyone has different ideas. How about this, listeners? What is your favorite memory of snow? If you're listening to this or watching this, drop it in the comments, send us a DM. Let's just have a conversation. It'd be interesting to see kind of what the listeners think and their experiences about snow.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm excited to take a deeper dive today, Mitchell, into what we talked about last week. One of the things we talked about was repurposing content to help you be consistent. So if you've missed last week's episode, go watch or go listen, because it was all about creating content consistently, and that was high quality. One of the things you can do to stay consistent is repurpose content. But for some people, they need more ideas. What actually does that look like? How do I maximize my content to where it's strategic? I'm not just pulling things to share again for the sake of staying consistent. Like, it's a tool, but I'm using it because I want to really reach my people and be effective. So I'm really excited to take this entire episode and really dig into repurposing content, because I'm telling you, if you can get this down, it takes so much pressure off of your content creation journey. We are speaking from experience. This is one skill that you definitely want to hone in on, or you can connect with us and we can definitely help you further. But Mitchell, when it comes to repurposing content, the first thing I think of is that I want to take this content and make it transferable to multiple platforms in multiple ways. So if I have a video, I'm like, I want to take that video. I can post an audio. I can post a reel. I can create a graphic. I can write a blog. Like, I want to take this one piece of content and put it out there in multiple ways. I would love to hear your thoughts on just when we do that, how does that stretch the reach of your content? How does that stretch the lifespan of your content? Because at the end of the day, we recognize content creation takes time. And if I can stretch it out and make it reach as far as I can, for me, that's what I want to do. I want to maximize my efforts. And so I'd love to just hear your thoughts on that.
Well, one thing I think about is when you're talking about that, how important grabbing content is, because as you're talking about repurposing, there could be ways that maybe today you don't think even it could be used. But when you're sitting down, like last week's episode, you're talking about picking a day, picking the time to do it. Maybe in that creative frame of mind that you're now in, days, weeks later of after shooting the content or creating the content, now you're thinking about, oh, I could use it here. I could use, you talked about maybe splitting the audio from the video, if that's the type of content. So, when you're talking about repurposing, I also think about the importance of grabbing content when you're in the moment. And to be honest with you, that's something that I struggle with. In fact, I was with someone, I think just last week, I told them, hey, I need to let's get a picture before we leave so that we can post it, or whatever. And they were all for it. And then it didn't happen because the way I am, I guess I'm just in the moment or whatever. And I get wrapped up in whatever it's talking about. So if you don't do it, then you might miss it. So when you think about it, do it, go ahead and grab it right then. And we've been in meetings where you're like, hey, let's grab this picture or something like that. So, anyways, but yeah, I mean, again, I think the other strong point there is what I said earlier about, even if you don't think of how you're going to use it in all the different ways when you grab it, just the important thing is to grab it, just create it, do it then in the moment, because later on you can figure out how to use it 10 different ways you weren't even thinking about.
I love that thought because so often people forget to grab content. Like, you would think it seems like, well, sure, obviously, if I'm going to repurpose content, I have to actually have content. But people sometimes forget to just grab it in everyday life. It's so helpful. Maybe you have a brick and mortar business. What if you had a routine where every single day when you walked in your building, you grabbed a picture, grabbed a short video clip of you setting up or getting things ready or interacting with the customer? Whatever you can do to grab content. And like Mitchell said, even if you don't know how to use it, that doesn't excuse you from grabbing the content, because you always can use it later. And then once you use it, repurpose it. Why do you want to do this? Why do you want to repurpose your content? It is going to save you so much time and energy. Like, I promise, you don't want to have to, for lack of a better term, reinvent the wheel every single time you want to post something. So you want to save that time, save that energy. Also, it's going to increase your reach, right? Because think about how different people consume content in different ways. Some people love to watch video. Some people, they want to consume it by listening to it, right? As much as I love video, I love being on video, I honestly consume more audio content than I do video content just in my everyday life. And so people consume content differently. So you want to think about that. If I have my content out there in different ways, I'm going to be able to reach more people. Also, again, pointing to last week, repurposing the content, I'm going to be more consistent, right? I'm going to be able to stay visible. I'm going to maintain that content flow and building that trust. And then ultimately, I'm hoping I can boost engagement, right? The more content I put out there, the more I'm consistent, more people have an opportunity to engage with what I have going on. So it's such a game changer when you actually repurpose content. Mitchell, I would love your thoughts about this, right? It's like work smarter, not harder, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm thinking about, as you're talking, setting aside time, and I think you mentioned that last week, setting aside time and doing it. And basically you're talking about a structure, you're building structure. And I know for me, even as a creative, when I look at a blank canvas in whatever context, it is overwhelming. When I'm giving a tool and there's so many intricate little resources and tools out there that it's like looking at a menu and there's 100 things on the menu and you don't know what you want and you spend 30 minutes trying to figure out what you want to eat. Similar with this, if you set aside time to plan out your content, to use content that maybe you shot before, maybe you had a schedule where you had an open time to create it, but now you have a separate time to figure out how you're going to use it, and schedule it out for days in the future. What that does, it gives you boundaries. It actually, usually people do better with boundaries if they have a set structure where you know that, okay, here I'm going to work on this and I'm not going to worry about everything else. You're able to focus and produce some things, start checking boxes off. So again, I think structure, scheduling things out will help a lot in figuring out how things can be used.
Yeah, I love that. And you may be listening and you're thinking, okay, that sounds great. I'm all in. I want to do this. What could that look like for me and my social media journey or my content creation journey? Let's give you some practical things to think about. I want you to think about, okay, how can I, number one, create a long form piece of content and turn it into short form? For example, you may record a long podcast episode, but then you could take it into short form and create social media graphics with quotes. Maybe you want to create a reel for TikTok or Instagram or another platform. Maybe you want to write a blog that just summarizes the key takeaways. It's like, okay, I'm taking something that's longer and I'm going to break it down into things that are shorter or smaller, right? Then maybe you want to take something that's shorter and make it bigger or longer, or, maybe you're creating these short form clips for IG, for Reels, for TikTok, YouTube Shorts, maybe your posts, but then you want to develop that idea into a masterclass, into a webinar. You want to develop that into some sort of ebook. So it can go both ways. Maybe you want to develop a blog post, right? And then maybe you want to take a blog post and now you want to create a whole article for it. So I want you to think, whether it's short form or long form, you can flip-flop those and then create more content around that. Additionally, think about audio versus video, right? If you have a video podcast, we talked about pulling out audio, creating these little audio clips that you can post. You can take this video and you can create sort of like little voiceovers, I call it. So if you see on social media, you'll see a video of something and you'll hear someone's voice kind of on top of that video that you're watching. That voiceover doesn't always have to be recorded in real time. You could take a snippet of something a video or audio that you created and take that little audio clip and put it on top of another video. So you can really repurpose in so many ways. I want to encourage you to be creative. You can take a whole Instagram post and make that even smaller into put it on X or a LinkedIn little short one-liner. There are so many ways to repurpose content. You can literally take one piece of content and create probably at least 10 other different pieces of content across the different platforms. I just love how our brains just can do that. The creative juices can just like take something and create more things out of it. And maybe you're listening and you're like, girl or Mitchell, I need help with that. That's why we dream. That's why we're here. We want to help you maximize your content creation journey as best as we can. So Mitchell, I didn't know your thoughts. I mean, I know that you are so good at, taking things that we make that are long form and making them short form. Can you like foresee any challenges people may have when they're repurposing content? Maybe something that you've come across, and maybe let's help them navigate through maybe one or two challenges really quickly that they might have while they're doing this.
Well, I've referred to it already and even in previous podcasts, but I'll do it again because it's that important. There's a ton of resources out there that's either free or with a subscription that can help you filter all this content that you have and figure out a way to use it here this way and use it here that way. or reuse it a week later, 2 weeks later, a month later, whatever the case is. But there's, rather than reinventing the wheel, which honestly, sometimes I do that without even thinking about it. Like I feel like I have to build it from scratch. But there's a ton of resources out there that will prevent you from having to do that and use your time more wisely and be more effective with what you're doing. And you still come out with a very creative, unique product that speaks to you, your brand, all these things. As you're talking there, and this just points to how cool this podcast is and how important it is to put things in front of you that helps your creative juices to be more creative. And also even I could even take it further into networking, which is one of your big things. But as you're talking there, I'm just popping in my brain, my creative brain is just kind of hitting on all cylinders on like how we could take a piece of content and make it different. And you're talking about taking the audio clip, but maybe not being video, but you're putting visuals to it. And I'm already thinking of 2 different free resources that I've played around with, where that I can visualize how I can use it to make this type of content. Anyway, so it's just, and I hope that our podcast will do that for other people when they listen to this stuff. It'll kind of trigger some things, and hopefully you get some momentum. And if you have questions on what's out there, I mean, one, you could Google it, you can research top whatever, or drop us a DM or ask us questions. Post something in the comments or ask us and see what stuff that we use. And maybe we need to do an episode on that, and maybe we need to get some sponsorships. Why not, while we're at it? But yeah, we'd love to sit down and talk with you about what resources we use and how to take content that we can reuse and be consistent and all those good things.
Yeah, we want to challenge you today to go repurpose one piece of content, whatever that looks like. And you don't even have to repurpose it 10 different ways. Start with just one way today, right? Just start with one way to repurpose content and get yourself going. You will thank yourself later when you get this down because of all the time, energy, and effort that you will have saved. So we hope that you're encouraged today. Listen, if you haven't subscribed to this podcast already, here is your invitation to do that. Subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And maybe you have already subscribed. Share this podcast with a friend. We want to help you however we can elevate your brand, because together we
Dream
Media.